Dinghai Fusheng Records. End chapter. Chapter 69. Reaching the summit. The next day, Xiang Shu had finished making preparations to go out. Looking at Chen Xing's appearance, with how he had changed into a different set of clothes, it was obvious that he intended to come along with him. "Did you not sleep well yesterday?" Xiang Shu asked. This question was directed to Chen Xing, but Xian was the one to answer it instead. With sleepy eyes, he answered, "I finally don't have to attend court from now on, so it's only right that I could get a good night's rest, but who knew that there would be two birds that would continuously make a ruckus for the whole night. I tossed and turned but couldn't fall asleep, and it was only at dawn did I finally got some shut-eye." The corner of Chen Xing's lips twitched as he expressed, "Oh? There are birds? How come I didn't hear any?" Xian said, "Of course. One flew by from the west, and the other flew out from the east, just chasing after one another. First they were flying like this, then they were flying like that." He even started gesturing as he spoke, continuing, "Then the one in the west suddenly stopped moving. All I could tell was that it was screeching by my ear. Say, don't you guys think it's strange?" Xiang Shu. Chen Xing. "I'm leaving now," Xiang Shu announced. "I'm going with you," Chen Xing stood up as he declared. "Hey! Hey!" Xian hastily laughed and said, "Don't rush, bring me along too. Don't think about leaving me behind." Chen Xing replied, "If you go off on your own and leave me alone, what will we do if Shihai comes along and kidnaps me again later?" Xian said, "Right. If an enemy comes along, my old bones wouldn't be able to handle it." Chen Xing. "Where are you guys going?" Xiao Shan shouted, "I'm going too." Thus, Chen Xing could only bring Xiao Shan along too. Xiang Shu originally wanted to just take a fast horse and quickly come and quickly go, but who would have expected that Xian would prepare a carriage and even sent someone to inform Feng Qianjun, as if they were going on an autumn trip. Following that, Feng Qianjun even brought along Gu Qing, and Xie Dayun just so happened to be going to find Gu Qing, so in the end, it became a parade of people from the exorcism department plus 2 doctors. The giant group of people departed from Jiankong together in the name of official business, but in reality, they were just heading to Nanping Mountain to enjoy themselves. The autumn sky was clear, and the air was crisp, so they all went to go fly kites. Chibi was known as Puqi in ancient times. The mountain ranges stretched on endlessly like dragon veins between heaven and earth. The 3 peaks of Chibi Mountain, Nanping Mountain, and Jinluan Mountain were all connected by these veins. Snow-white clouds and towering peaks and ridges faced the Yangtze River and the Wanlihong Lake. Within the autumn of the great wilderness, the maple leaves on the multitude of mountains appeared as red as fire as they piled over the golden ginkgo trees. Elm, mulberry, and sycamore trees also dotted the landscape layer by layer, stretching across for several miles as they were reflected in the blue-green waters of Hong Lake. In the mountains was also a waterfall that flew downwards like a white curtain. In the mountains there was water, and in the water was the reflection of the mountains. It was as if sienna, vermilion, red, dark green, and all the colors of other vivid minerals had melted into the mountains and rivers. It really was the most magnificently crafted scenery created by the universe. When the guard of Wuchang County learned of Xian's coming, his parents hurriedly sent out boats and allowed Xian to have command over them. A number of small boats had moored on the lake beneath the mountain, but Xian didn't wish to be disturbed, so he abandoned his horse to scale Nanping Mountain on foot. Xiang Shu asked, "Where is the Big Dipper altar?" Xian replied, "It's halfway up the mountain, on the cliff facing Hong Lake. Come, I'll take you guys to take a look." It was drizzling and mist-shrouded in the afternoon. Xian had travelled through all the renowned mountains in his youth, and his memory was absolutely excellent, so when he led them to Nanping Mountain, he did so like a carriage lightly passing over a familiar road. With a paper umbrella in hand, he practically flew up the mountain and ended up walking ahead of them all in just a few turns. Chen Xing, on the other hand, was dragging the front of his robe with ragged breaths at the very end of the procession, completely unable to catch up to Xian. Xie Dayun was originally walking alongside Xiao Shan until she glanced back, called out to Chen Xing, and took the initiative to stop and wait for him. You get and Xiao Shan get along pretty well, Chen Xing wheezed as he shot her a smile. During the period of time Chen Xing was confined to bed, Xie Dayun would often come to check up on him. She and Xiao Shan then grew familiar with each other over the course of several encounters. On the day they had entered the palace to see Sima Yao, Xie Dayun had even arranged for her and Xiao Shan to have a little competition. That little brother of yours worries so much about you every day that he can't possibly worry more, Xie Dayun remarked. How come you're always so heartless? When have I been heartless again? Chen Xing asked, bewildered. Xie Dayun snorted but didn't respond again. Chen Xing peered at her with suspicion, asking, You don't have any untoward thoughts towards my adopted son, right? Exorcist, is there anything else in your brain besides such things? Xie Dayun instantly became enraged. Xie Dayun was always with Xiao Shan as if she were his older sister, and the unexpected duo made Chen Xing somewhat taken aback. Of course, Chen Xing knew that Xiao Shan would grow up very quickly and, maybe in a few years, he would even find someone he likes. According to the customs of Jin country, one could already be match-made at the age of 14, and for Xiongnu people, it was even earlier. But in Chen Xing's heart, Xiao Shan really was too young, even though he had grown quite a lot in the past half a year, he was still only 12 years old. Thinking about it more carefully, Chen Xing admitted to Xie Dayun's so-called heartlessness. He hoped that Xiao Shan could quickly grow up, or at least not find it too hard to let go of him, or just not find it as hard to let go of him as he found it for Liu Ying at the very least. Otherwise, he would be like a child that could never grow up. When he was no longer here in a few years, how would Xiao Shan become an independent person then? Thus he no longer treated Xiao Shan like a child as he had when they were in Karakoram, but regarded him as an adult like himself. He would teach him how to read and write but would avoid expressing too much affection. He would encourage him more to make friends and associate himself with more people so as to avoid Xiao Shan having only Chen Xing himself in his world. Chen Xing felt like Xiao Shan understood everything, and in actuality, Xiao Shan did. After reuniting in Kuiji, Chen Xing had put in a tremendous amount of effort to apologize to him and, not minding Xiao Shan's hazy expression, he explained his thoughts. Since then, Xiao Shan had vaguely understood Chen Xing's familiar yet not close sentiment even more. He understood that Chen Xing was urging him to grow up and was hoping that he could one day face everything on his own. Chen Xing had a blank expression. He originally wanted to ask, do you want to snatch Xiao Shan away? Become his adopted mother, but with Xie Dayun's previous words, a sense of awkwardness suddenly rose between the two. I don't have any untoward thoughts. Xie Dayun shouted, I want to acknowledge him as my master. Oh, Chen Xing swiped away his cold sweat and hurriedly nodded his head. Raising his hand, he expressed, I don't have any objections at all. Did he agree? Chen Xing saw that Xiao Shan also liked Xie Dayun quite a bit, but hadn't expected that Xie Dayun would actually want to find a master to learn martial arts from as well. But now that he thought about it, it was evident that Xie Dayun had learned some martial arts before. Most of the Xie household wouldn't allow her to use swords or spears, only Xiein was fairly open-minded. Xiang Shu didn't have the spare time to teach her, and it wasn't very suitable for Feng Qianjun to exchange blows with his fiancé's best friend, and thus Xie Dayun could only find Xiao Shan. Xie Dayun explained, Xiao Shifu said that he wanted to discuss it with you, understand? Chen Xing nodded. Right at this time, Xiang Shu seemed to have intentionally slowed down and was listening into the conversation between the two of them. Xie Dayun didn't speak anymore and proceeded to walk to the head of the procession. You guys go on, just wait for me up ahead. Chen Xing panted out as he leaned against a tree, I'm going to rest for a while. I told you to not come along, Xiang Shu scolded, vexed. Chen Xing had just recovered from his severe illness, so he was already frail, and after his heart chakra received some damage, he was even more out of breath from climbing a mountain. Everybody looked at Chen Xing. Xiao Shan wanted to say something but stopped, and Feng Qianjun nudged at him, indicating Xiao Shan to walk ahead, and said, "Then Xiao Shan and I will go ahead and explore the way." Chen Xing wiped his sweat and squeezed out a forced smile. Xiang Shu waited a while before finally saying, forget it, I'll carry you." "No need," Chen Xing expressed, "I'm fine." "Xie Shixing's physical strength, how is it so good?" Xiang Shu didn't force Chen Xing either. Shortly after, everybody had already walked ahead, leaving only Xiang Shu by Chen Xing's side. Chen Xing kept slipping along the way, the fog spiraled upwards in the mountains and the rain drizzled down in short bursts, and Chen Xing and Xiang Shu's outer robes were already soaked through at that moment. Chen Xing spoke, "I still remember when you took me to climb Karasha. You were always this impatient, can't you wait?" Xiang Shu took a deep breath and was just about to reproach Chen Xing, but Chen Xing was already extremely depressed, saying, "All right, I'll return to Jiankong. I won't hold you all back anymore. I knew you were going to be angry." Saying this, Chen Xing sighed. He then continued to murmur to himself, "Since we headed out today, I have constantly been on tenterhooks, afraid that I might accidentally make you unhappy again. Sorry, I'll head back now." Ever since Chen Xing realized that that he really liked Xiang Shu, he was constantly unable to hold himself back from interpreting his attitude towards himself in all sorts of ways. He also no longer dared to brazenly tease or make fun of him anymore. Xiang Shu also seemed to have detected this cautious attitude of Chen Xing's when the two of them were together, but for some unknown reason, he would occasionally grow uncontrollably angry. But every time he would want to control Chen Xing would reveal an insouciant and unwilling expression that would cause the feelings of irritation to accumulate in Xiang Shu's heart until an opening finally appeared, and then he would teach Chen Xing a lesson. This time Xiang Shu didn't respond. Instead, he reached out and grasped his hand, leading him up the mountain road at a slow pace. The drizzle was fluttering through the air. At that moment, Chen Xing's heart started to beat wildly. Following behind Xiang Shu, his fingers unconsciously twitched in his grasp, but Xiang Shu tightened his grip on his hand without hesitating, keeping his palm firmly locked in his. Chen Xing raised his gaze to look at Xiang Shu's profile. He found that it was as if he had never properly understood him before. He had always felt that Xiang Shu was sometimes extremely short-tempered, yet other times he would be incredibly gentle, so gentle that it was a little unlike him. But in any case, Chen Xing felt that he was already the person who understood him most in the world. After all, everything must be judged through comparison. Xiang Shu peered at Chen Xing, seeming as if he wanted to explain something, thus Chen Xing swung his hand a bit to indicate that it was all right. Xiang Shu finally yielded and took the initiative to say, "Sometimes I feel like I always have a groundless sense of irritation. Is this some type of evil tendency?" "Evil tendency?" Chen Xing could only feel a little bemused. Xiang Shu casually replied, "There is an uncontrollable force trapped inside my heart that searches everywhere for an outlet, wanting to break free." As he was saying this, Xiang Shu seemed to be recalling many things for no particular reason at the moment. He continued, "Sometimes I also want to communicate properly, but for some unknown reason, I always grow impatient when it comes to you. Never mind." Chen Xing thought to himself, "You're not only like this to me, you're impatient towards everyone, and sometimes you don't even bother to talk. You're actually pretty good to me in comparison." Perhaps this was the reason why Xiang Shu's martial arts were so strong. Chen Xing always felt that Xiang Shu's martial arts had a sense of madness, a kind of near-overflowing and uncontrollable type of strength. Perhaps it had something to do with the extreme self-repression in his heart. Most of the time, Xiang Shu was clear-headed and rational, so clear-headed that Chen Xing was even a little taken aback. But whenever the two of them were alone, this irritable side of Xiang Shu would inadvertently show its head, causing Chen Xing to become extremely cautious for fear of saying the wrong thing. "I wanted you to come," Xiang Shu said simply. "Yes, I wanted you to come with me." When Chen Xing heard those words, he instantly broke into a smile. Those words had completely swept away the haze in his heart. That smile was filled with a youthful joyfulness, yet he could only respond with, "Oh, n." Xiang Shu said, "The landscapes of the south really are beautiful. Come on, let's go." Thus Chen Xing's mood became absolutely brilliant. But Xiang Shu then released his hand, letting him walk by himself. When they reached a turn in the mountain road, he turned back to look at him with a complicated gaze. After the restoration of magic, Xiang Shu switched to another topic, asking, "What do you plan to do?" When Chen Xing was asked the question, he was a little taken by surprise. He didn't know why Xiang Shu would suddenly think of this, so he responded, "Find a place in Jiankong to live? Just carry on my days ba." After passing the foothills, the fog started to scatter. The two of them arrived before the edge of the high cliff and stood shoulder to shoulder as they came facing the Hong Lake beneath the Nanping Mountains. "Didn't you plan on seeing all the mountains and rivers in the Divine Land? Have you changed your mind?" Chen Xing realized that perhaps it was because they came to Nanping Mountain today that Xiang Shu suddenly had some sort of feeling that had caused him to recall their conversation on the boat. "I forgot," Chen Xing answered with a smile. "Yes, you just reminded me." Chen Xing would occasionally calculate the time he had left when he had nothing else to do. There were only 2 years left, and the road ahead was far more difficult than what he had initially anticipated, thus he pretty much no longer had any other desires. If they could defeat Shihai, then he would already be thanking the heavens. There most likely wouldn't be any more time to travel to the mountains and rivers when the time came, so he might as well find a quiet place to live for a period of time. Thus, this was the answer he unconsciously blurted out when he was asked the question. But what he had just said wasn't reasonable, causing Xiang Shu's suspicion to immediately be aroused. He warily scrutinized Chen Xing. Chen Xing was stared at by him so much that he was starting to have a rising sense of guilt, so, avoiding his gaze in an unnatural manner, he asked back, "What about you? Do you want to return to the north?" Xiang Shu was standing tall before the edge of the cliff as he casually responded, "You want to travel far and wide, can you walk so much?" Chen Xing smiled as he replied with another question, "So? You're willing to accompany me? I'm afraid that I'll be scolded by you again along the road." The fog started to gently cover everything once again. It swept over the cliff and Xiang Shu spoke amid the shroud of the mist, "Yes." He then turned away and started walking towards the top of the mountain. Chen Xing was dumbfounded, "What did I just hear?" "Ah?" Chen Xing asked, "What did you just say?" "Wait for me, Xiang Shu." Chen Xing was so preoccupied with turning around that he almost lost his footing, but Xiang Shu had already expected that. Without even looking in the fog, he grabbed onto Chen Xing's hand. Chen Xing suddenly broke into a cold sweat. He had almost tripped again just now. The mountain road was steep. If he slipped here then he would be rolling all the way down the slope. Xiang Shu peered at Chen Xing and said, "If I don't follow you, I'm afraid that you wouldn't even be able to cross the Yangtze River." Chen Xing smiled in embarrassment. High up on the side of Nanping Mountain's peak was the Big Dipper altar, standing on a high platform halfway of the mountain. It was completely exposed, and the sun shone down again. Xiao Shan was feeding a squirrel with Xie Dayun under a tree, and Feng Qianjun was holding Gu Qing's hand, the two of them watching from the side. The Big Dipper altar was once a site where Zhuge had used the east wine to perform Buddhist rites. After the Battle of Chibi, the Jin people had brought bricks and stones to pay tribute to the unprecedented battle and rebuilt the altar. Since then, very few people had come by. Holding a fan, Xian stood at the side of the Big Dipper altar and chatted leisurely with Feng Qianjun. He couldn't help himself from saying, "I have mentioned this place to His Majesty many times this year. I hope he can give this place a visit." Feng Qianjun said, those baldies would definitely be exhausted if they want to climb this mountain. Xian laughed as he replied, "It's worth it if you get to reap the fruits of your labor." Xiang Shu had just climbed up when he heard those words. He naturally understood the meaning behind Xian's words. He had wanted to give Sima Yao and the other Jin court officials some confidence. He then took over the conversation and explained to Feng Qianjun, there have only been 4 battles recorded since ancient times where victory was achieved with few losses. Zhulu, Guandu, Chibi, and Yiling. This was one of them. In the Battle of Zhulu, Xiang Yu had cut off all means of retreat and defeated the Qin army. In the Battle of Guandu, Cao's 20,000 troops and horses had slaughtered their way through until the 300,000 of Yuan Shao's army turned to flee, tossing aside their armor and helmets. No need to even mention Chibi, and of course, the last battle of the Three Kingdoms period, which was Lu Xun's burning of the Shu camp. The 4 great battles in this history were all won by inferior numbers, so they could have been said to have been led by the pinnacle of commanders. Xiang Yu, Cao, Zhou Yu, and Lu Xun, the 4 commanders, all became famous from these battles and had their names preserved for eternity. I remember that Xiang Yu, the hegemon of Zhongdong, seemed to be the ancestor of the protector martial god, Xian said with a smile. Xiang Shu didn't respond. He stared up at the Big Dipper altar before shifting his gaze down the altar's remains to stare at the cliff before the mountain. Chen Xing was extremely surprised. Xiang Shu actually knew so much about the history of the Han people. He must have seriously read through it before when learning the art of war. Of the 4 battles, Xiang Shu responded, 3 of them took place in Zhongdong. All the soldiers who had participated in the battles were Zhongdong descendants. Not bad. Xian nodded, praising, whether it was in luck or talent, Zhongdong has never gone under since ancient times. Martial God, did you know that out of an entire court of literary and military officials, save for Xianqi, you are the only one who has once said it's not like the battle can't be fought to His Majesty. Hearing that, Chen Xing realized just what kind of pressure Xian was carrying. But, thinking about it, he could figure it out. Fujian was known as the commander of 500,000, but the descendants of Zhongdong were less than 70,000. The entirety of the Jin government must have thought Xian was crazy for having such a thought. Even if a miracle like the Battle of Chibi appeared once again, it would be of no use against someone like Fujian. After all, if he attacked southward from the Fei River but was unable to make use of the time and geographical advantages, how could he defeat the enemy? Xiang Shu remarked, but just these battles alone have left plenty of illusions for you Han people to happily talk about. Xian, it wouldn't hurt for you to make some preparations. Perhaps in the next battle of Fei River, you can also leave behind a few records. Xian smiled as he started to ask, Martial God, are you interested in? Not interested, Xiang Shu responded. I will not lead your soldiers for you and fight my own people. The most I can do is help neither side. But this was precisely what Xian was waiting for him to say, thus he quickly replied, then we really owe you a debt of gratitude, Protector Martial God. Following that, he immediately gave Chen Xing a salute. Chen Xing still didn't know what implications were hidden behind the offhanded words Xiang Shu had just spoken. The reason was, although Xiang Shu had Han ancestry, he had grown up in Chi Le Chuan after all, and considered his identity to be that of a tile. If the 2 nations went to war, how could the former great Chanyu just sit back and watch? The reason why he had given this promise was naturally because of Chen Xing. Have you rested enough? Stand up and take a look, Xiang Shu said. Chen Xing stood up and walked around the Big Dipper altar before standing at its center. He contemplated about that time when Kong Ming had borrowed the east wind. It has been a full 173 years. The high-rising cliffs were already covered with moss, and the traces of the past would never appear again. The Big Dipper altar faced the Yangtze River and the Hong Lake across it. The 3 mountains were like dragons winding past their backs, the large river akin to a sword that stretched on for thousands of miles, and the Hong Lake was a massive array, it really was the land where the spiritual qi of heaven and earth converged. This really is among the best spiritual spots, Chen Xing murmured. This is a hinterland of the entirety of the divine land. If Zhonglu casts a spell using the Dinghai pearl on the Big Dipper altar, he really might be able to draw in the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. The mountain wind blew by, causing Chen Xing's white robe to billow behind him. He closed his eyes and used a single hand to form a spell. Standing in the center of the Big Dipper altar, he imitated the state one would be in when casting a spell. Whether it was Kongming or Zhonglu, if the spiritual qi of the heavens and earth was still there, it would, boundlessly and powerfully, rush into his hands. Xiang Shu walked behind Chen Xing and watched him from that angle. Chen Xing didn't see Xiang Shu when he opened his eyes, so he turned around and asked, "What? So Zhonglu really did practice magic here before?" Feng Qianjun remarked. "Yes," Chen Xing responded. "The possibility is very high." Xiang Shu asked, "Would there be any traces left behind from the spellcasting process?" "We wouldn't be able to find it even if there was," Chen Xing replied, "it's already something from 300 years ago." Xiang Shu continued to ask, "Then what about traces of Kongming borrowing the east wind?" Chen Xing replied, "It has also been over 170 years, so how?" Wait. A seed of doubt had suddenly grown in his heart, but Xiang Shu had actually voiced out his suspicions. Zhonglu had first used the Dinghai pearl to take away all the spiritual qi of the heavens and earth, which caused the silence of all magic. Xiang Shu said. Since all the magic in the world had disappeared, then how did Kongming borrow the east wind 130 years later? This clearly went against all logic. Chen Xing suddenly became dumbfounded, uttering, "Yet, the silence of all magic should have occurred long before the Three Kingdoms." Everyone looked at each other in surprise. Yet it was Xian that spoke up, "Maybe borrowing the wind was just a trick?" Zhuge Xiang was well versed in astronomy and geography, and he would naturally also know of the changes in weather. Fooling Sun Wu was not an impossibility. This was the only explanation, yet Chen Xing had felt that something was not right. He asked, "Such an important question, why didn't you ask sooner?" Xiang Shu said, "I asked you back then but you said, that isn't important. Would the Dinghai pearl be in Chibi?" Feng Qianjun wondered, if Zhonglu had been ambushed by Shihai after taking away the spiritual qi of the heavens and earth, then what if he had hidden the Dinghai pearl somewhere nearby when he was trying to escape? If it remained in the mountains, it could still emit a little spiritual qi. Thus more than 100 years later, Kongming found this place but couldn't explain why out of all the places in the world, only on Nanping Mountain could spells be cast. In short, that's what he did. Xian was also stunned. If they put it this way, they might be able to get an answer. Chen Xing immediately exclaimed, "Wait a minute, let me try." Chen Xing raised his hands and performed a simple spell. At dusk, the mountain wind started to pass through the forest, which broke his concentration several times. He couldn't help shaking in excitement. If that really was the case, then they might not need to put in much effort at all. The whereabouts of the Dinghai pearl were already very close. It was the first time Guqing and Xie Dayun were seeing an exorcist cast a spell, so their eyes were filled with surprise as they watched. Chen Xing raised a hand and lowered it before raising it after he lowered it again, trying his best to calm his breath and compose his emotions, and recalled an incantation. Xiang Shu suddenly asked, "Are you sure that after the silence of all magic, the only thing that can release the spiritual qi is the Dinghai pearl?" "Don't talk to him!" Feng Qianjun and Xian shouted at the same time. "Let him cast," Xian rebuked, "you can ask later." Chen Xing tried a few times, but could only admit in disappointment, "Nothing, I can't find a trace of the spiritual qi flow." Xiang Shu was very calm however, asking again, "Is it a problem with the spell's incantation?" "I don't know," Chen Xing answered, distraught. "After all, there already wasn't any spiritual qi when I was learning magic, forget it, I'll answer your question first." Chen Xing contemplated for a bit before seriously answering, with the silence of all magic, only the heart lamp is able to still use mana. It really doesn't make any sense now that you mention it. Xiang Shu ended in response. Evidently, he had been pondering over the problem of why is it that after all the spiritual qi of the heavens and earth had disappeared, only the heart lamp could still be used, this whole time. In addition to the heart lamp, there is still some mana left in this world, Chen Xing explained. It's just that there is very, very little. Liu Ying is an example. Back then Xiang Shu, Chen Xing, and Xiao Shan had all witnessed it. Liu Ying had released a gentle wave of power before he died, allowing the entirety of Karasha to be brought back to life. Thinking of it this way, how could they say that all the mana in the world had been lost? Xiang Shu asked, where did Liu Ying's power come from? This time it was Xiao Shan who answered, internal core. Right. Chen Xing replied, a Yao's internal core. Before the silence of all magic, Yaos would increase their own innate cultivation by absorbing the spiritual qi of the heavens and earth. After the mana was incorporated into their bodies, it would be stored within their internal cores, providing the power that a Yao needed in order to survive. Chen Xing could also roughly sort out what had happened now. What the Dinghai pearl had taken away was only the vast, free-flowing spiritual qi. Taking away the spiritual qi from a Yao's internal core was not within its abilities. So after all the spiritual energy had been lost, the Yaos could still rely on their own internal cores to support themselves for a period of time. But the mana in an internal core couldn't be replenished, it was just like the water contained in a jar, totally gone once completely consumed without replenishing. Liu Ying was only an extraordinarily powerful Yao who had not only received Ziyuan's dragon power before he had reached his final resting point but also contained enough spiritual qi that had lasted him for hundreds of years before he finally passed away while still having extra Yao energy to spare. The heart lamp is also a little like that. Chen Xing decided that he might as well confess, what the heart lamp burns off of is the human soul. Yet the 3 Huns and 7 POS can slowly and gradually regenerate. Even though it is very weak, it is like an internal core that provides an endless, but small, supply of energy. Xiang Shu was leaning against the side of the cliff, his mind seemingly having wandered elsewhere. He pondered, so if I find the internal core of a Yao, I can use it in place of the heart lamp to utilize the Akala blade. To use Yao energy to power it, it isn't impossible in theory, Chen Xing remarked. It's just like borrowing the power of resentment, only that the type of power is different. Yao energy is also a spiritual qi of the heavens and earth. However, the silence of all magic has already occurred for hundreds of years now. No matter how powerful the Yao energy within their internal cores would have already been exhausted. Even a phoenix wouldn't be able to sustain themselves any longer, so forget about it. Chen Xing was naturally aware that Xiang Shu's goal was to protect him, but he would rather have Xiang Shu be able to let go and take the risk. He decided that he would have to find a time to properly discuss this matter with him. Thinking about how Xiang Shu cared so much about him and wished that he could live on well, his heart started to ache. There is no flow of mana, Chen Xing reported. At least I can't detect any at the moment. The sky was already starting to darken. Thus Feng Qianjun suggested, how about we go down the mountain? Let's come up and investigate again tomorrow. Xian had already instructed the county guards to make preparations. After going down the mountain, they would take the boat to the government lodgings. He said, don't worry, you have the right to treat this as a relaxing trip. You have been extremely busy these days, so just rest ba. Xian's original intentions were not only to investigate but to also reanalyze the terrain around Chibi. After all, if Fujian were to send his armies south, the coastal areas of Jiangnan would be the front lines, and the Yangtze River and southern Chibi would become the rear. If Fei Shui lost, he would most likely have to retreat to retain his strength before finding a more advantageous location for a final, decisive battle. You guys head down first ba. Xiang Shu spoke. Take him to rest, I'll stay here for a while longer. Chen Xing knew that Xiang Shu was still unwilling to give up, so he said, "I'll accompany you." The rest of their group left and made their way down the mountain road, leaving Chen Xing and Xiang Shu alone together. The sky appeared to be lit on fire and the clouds were rolling by as boundless rays of evening sunlight danced past. Late-night singing rang from the fishing boats as they drifted along the endless golden waves of Hong Lake. Xiang Shu walked up to the Big Dipper altar and lowered his head to look down at the stones beneath his feet before lifting his head back up to gaze at the cliff. Chen Xing murmured, "I don't know why, but I have a nagging feeling that we've come to the right place. Are you hiding something from me?" Xiang Shu didn't carry on Chen Xing's topic of conversation, choosing to ask this question instead. "Ah!" Chen Xing was startled. His thoughts churned, but he answered, "No, of course not. Why are you suddenly asking this?" Xiang Shu's back faced Chen Xing as he stood before the cliff by the Big Dipper altar. He surveyed the craggy mountain ridges, saying, "Every time we talk about magic or ancient records, there's always a double meaning behind your words. Have you never thought about protecting yourself? Don't I have you?" Chen Xing smiled as he replied. Xiang Shu frowned, thus Chen Xing continued, "Xiang Shu, you really care about my life?" Xiang Shu didn't respond. Instead, he asked, "Do you remember the first time we met in Xiangyang?" Chen Xing found it slightly amusing how neither of them were straightforwardly answering the other's question. Instead, they were both talking in circles. "Of course I remember." Chen Xing responded, "After you woke up, you tied me up. You've been staring at that piece of rock for a long time now. Is it really that pretty?" Xiang Shu suddenly stepped back and said, "Come here." Chen Xing. Xiang Shu took off the heavy sword hanging on his back, causing Chen Xing's vigilance to rise. Was there an enemy? Thus he summoned the heart lamp, but Xiang Shu held down his wrist and frowned. "I just wanted you to come take a look." Saying this, Xiang Shu stepped aside and, wielding the sword in two hands, he held it diagonally towards the stone and made a slashing motion. He asked, "What does this look like?" The sunlight was gradually dimming, but Chen Xing had also noticed what Xiang Shu had concluded from observing the rock. He uttered, This cliff was cut out. Whose strength could be so strong?" Xiang Shu walked up to the edge of the cliff and gazed downwards only to see a fissure beneath the mountain stream. Inside of it was already filled with an overgrowth of plants and climbing vines. If the climbing vines and moss were removed, what remained might be the leftover traces of a fierce battle. End chapter. Dinghai Fusheng Records. Chapter 70. Deserted Island. "You head down first." "No," Chen Xing insisted, "I want to stay with you." Xiang Shu swept a glance at Chen Xing before wrapping his arm around his waist and leaping off the edge of the cliff. Never in a million years would Chen Xing have imagined that something like this would suddenly occur. He let out a frantic scream, "What are you doing? Let go now!" Xiang Shu. Ah! Chen Xing's cry had echoed through the entire mountain, causing Xian, who was waiting for them at the foot of the mountain, to jump up in surprise. "Feng Qianjun, what happened?" Xiao Shan immediately turned around, but Xian hurriedly called after him, Don't. Let's observe for a while first." The realization had also dawned on Feng Qianjun. This earth-shattering scream. Could it have come from the Big Dipper altar? Gu Qing called out, "Feng Dage! Stop screaming!" Xiang Shu's voice echoed over from somewhere nearby. "It hurts so much." Following that was Chen Xing's desperate shrieks, Quickly! Stop!" Chen Xing was held by Xiang Shu around the waist, and they were descending down the mountain by nearly flying down the cliff. Xiang Shu had grabbed onto a mountain vine and plunged down with such force that Chen Xing's shoulder nearly dislocated. "We can't go in!" Chen Xing cried, "It's blocked! Grasp my neck tightly!" Xiang Shu shouted, "Stop moving around!" Xiang Shu had wanted to take Chen Xing through the crack in the cliff, but Chen Xing saw that the inside was already filled with vegetation, so they couldn't possibly stuff themselves in, right? Xiang Shu grabbed the vine with one hand and reached into the fissure with his other to drag out a broken piece of wood. Chen Xing clung onto Xiang Shu's shoulders as he curiously peered into the cliff's rift. This place isn't good. Let's change directions, ba. Stop shouting in my ear. Xiang Shu roared, I can hear you. On the mountain road. Feng Qianjun. Xiao Shan. Xian, let's continue making our way downwards. That. Dayun, you guys should hurry down. It's not suitable for you to remain here for a long time. Xia Dayun. Xian. Xiang Shu yelled, can you hear me? Get over here quickly. Xian immediately turned around and took the two of them back up the mountain only to see that Xiang Shu had tied Chen Xing and him together with a belt. He ordered, you guys go around to the back and see what's on the opposite side of the crack. Feng Qianjun tossed a set of a bow and arrows to Xiang Shu and shouted, use this to contact us later. The sky was growing increasingly darker, and Chen Xing's clothes were already a mess. They had finally squeezed through the fissure when they suddenly caught sight of a stone patio. Xiang Shu had bowed his head to take a look. It seemed as if nobody had come by this place in nearly 100 years since the vegetation had completely covered the surroundings. He used his sword to clear away the surrounding climbing vines and found that there seemed to have been a big battle here. The rocks were all collapsing towards the center. This is the detonation of spiritual qi. Chen Xing murmured, an exorcist blew something up here. No, he had collapsed something. Xiang Shu raised his head and saw that there was another pile of collapsed rocks. Thus he moved aside the fallen rocks that weighed more than 100 jin, revealing a bottomless tunnel. Chen Xing pondered, was it your mother and Zhonglu? Did they take this path to escape when they were ambushed here all those years ago? Xiang Shu couldn't confirm anything either, as all traces of the journey that had come across were their own conjectures. But one thing was apparent, and that was the fact that there had once been an extraordinary battle that had taken place here. Let's go forward to take a look. Xiang Shu said. The sky had already completely darkened at this time. Chen Xing wanted to summon the heart lamp, but Xiang Shu told him with an unyielding tone to hold onto his hand instead, and then they made their way quickly out of the mountain. The path was very deep, maybe even several miles deep. Xiang Shu glanced at Chen Xing and asked, I'll carry you on my back. It's fine. Chen Xing was in a state of excitement and hurried after Xiang Shu with quick steps. Back when they were in Yin Mountain, they had also done something like this. Following that, Chen Xing stumbled somewhere along the way. Xiang Shu stopped in his steps, and when he lowered his head, he saw that something was scattered on the ground of the limestone cave. It was a nearly decayed wooden scabbard. There was a name engraved on it. Just when Chen Xing wanted to take a closer look, Xiang Shu had put away the scabbard and said, let's continue moving forward. After walking for a full half a shishan, they finally arrived at the exit of the underground limestone cave. The air was clear and fresh and the sky was full over stars. The underground cave unexpectedly passed under the Yangtze River to the shore of Lake Hong. With the starlight, the two were able to clearly make out the line of words written in Zhonggu font on the nearly half-decayed ancient wooden scabbard. Akala blade. Chen Xing murmured, this was its initial scabbard. That flexible steel scabbard had only been forged by Zhonglu later on. This one that was found within the limestone cave was the scabbard that Xiang Yuan had when she had left home with the sword. Xiang Shu stood on the shore of Lake Hong as he gazed at the surrounding scenery. The waves of the lake slapped against the shore one after another. This was the place that my mother and Zhonglu escaped to back then. Xiang Shu uttered. The sky was already completely dark, so Chen Xing asked, how about we investigate again after sunrise? A lonely moon hung at the lake's horizon. The water and sky were of one color, mixing together as the horizon line rose with only the moonlight parting them in the middle. An island stood in the lake nearby and on it was a building, the site appearing desolate and somber. On the peninsula was a stone road that connected all the way to the shore. Xiang Shu drew the arrows and consecutively shot 3 into the sky. The arrows whistled as they hurtled toward the location Xian and the others hand-marked. There's only one way, Xiang Shu said, which is to go on the island, take a raft, then cross Lake Hong to get to the other side. Let's take a look. This place would actually have such a sequestered ancient building. Chen Xing scrutinized the building standing at the end of the road. It looked like a Taoist building where an alchemist would practice. The Taoist building had the style of the Han dynasty, which meant that it must have already been here for over 100 years. Is anyone here? Chen Xing lightly pushed the door of the Taoist building, and it opened with a squeak. Somebody inside suddenly stood up and gave a surprised shout. Chen Xing originally only had the idea of testing the waters. He never expected that there would actually be a person here. The Taoist building didn't look very big from the outside, but now that he was inside he realized that it actually wasn't very small. The courtyard was full of flowers, and a middle-aged scribe was currently in the courtyard watering them in the courtyard. He stood up and gave them a smile, asking, "Little brothers, how did you come to find this place?" Xiang Shu replied, "We were passing by. May we ask what is this place?" The middle-aged scribe laughed as he replied, "To pass by here really isn't an easy feat. Come, please sit. For us to have come across each other, it must be destiny. Would the two of you prefer some tea or wine?" Xiang Shu waved his hand and Chen Xing curiously made his way into the courtyard to see that the entirety of the Taoist building was in perfect order. He shot Xiang Shu a tentative glance, and Xiang Shu nodded his head in response, indicating that he would be cautious. During the Wei and Jin dynasties, numerous hermits had lived isolated from the world. The most famous hermits were Tao Qian and those like him. To be able to meet a hermit here, Chen Xing didn't find it too strange. He listened as the scribe gave a self-introduction. He was surnamed Huan, and his name consisted of a single Mo character. He belonged to the Huan family of Xiancheng. Back in the day, Sun Quan's Minister of Internal Affairs, Huan Yi's relatives had all moved away to avoid calamity after the Huan Wen rebellion. But Huan Mo didn't want to leave Jiangzuo, so he came to this Taoist building called Kanjianjiahu on the bank of Lake Hong and settled here. Kanjianjiahu, Chen Xing asked, does it have an origin of some sort? Huan Mo was making tea for the two in the open room facing Lake Hong as he answered, according to legend, this place was built by an exorcist hundreds of years ago. Chen Xing. Xiang Shu gave a slight frown but remained silent. Huan Mo continued and asked, little brother, do you know what an exorcist is? Back in the Han dynasty. Beneath the table, Xiang Shu's finger lightly tapped the back of Chen Xing's hand. Chen Xing understood what Xiang Shu meant, so he nodded his head and pretended to be curious as he listened to Huan Mo's words, since he was actually inseparable from the rumors surrounding the exorcism department. Xiang Shu nodded his head after hearing it all. Huan Mo had finished making the tea, so he said, the two of you please enjoy. This is the new Junshan tea I recently bought from the Chibi market. Xiang Shu stared at the teacup and remained motionless for a period of time. But Chen Xing so happened to be thirsty, so he directly lifted the teacup. Xiang Shu seemed to still be pondering when Feng Qianzhen's voice suddenly sounded from outside. He called out, is anybody here? Everyone else had finally arrived, causing Huan Mo to become even more surprised, so he stood up and went to open the door. Xiang Shu immediately turned towards Chen Xing and said, don't carelessly drink that. Chen Xing knew that Xiang Shu, this person, was quite cautious. He had never allowed him to randomly consume the food and drinks given by others before. He suggested, I'll let you test first to see if there's any poison. Xiang Shu was helpless, so he could only motion for Chen Xing to watch as he raised the teacup and took the first sip in Chen Xing's place. Chen Xing, aren't you not afraid of poison? Xiang Shu was instantly made speechless by Chen Xing. On the other side, Huan Mo was leading Feng Qianzhen, Xian, Xiao Shan, Xie Dayun, and Gu Qing into the room. When Feng Qianzhen caught sight of Chen Xing, he exclaimed, so you guys were here. Huan Mo was a little curious about what their relationships were, thus Xian smiled and explained, we are all classmates from the Imperial College that have been invited on a spring outing. We have been looking for these two for quite some time. Huan Mo smiled back as he responded, this brother is also a student of the Imperial College. You live until old age, and you also learn until old age. Xian smilingly replied. While one's still at an age where one is yet to be confused, one must work hard and make outstanding achievements. Huan Mo glanced at Xiao Shan. Xiao Shan, who was still carrying some food, turned towards Chen Xing and said, I'm hungry. Let's eat ba. Xian said, he's our Imperial College's child prodigy. He could also read and write pieces at the age of 5. Excuse me for my lack of manners, excuse me. Huan Wen saw that Xiao Shan really didn't have the appearance of a scholar, but since Xian had already said something like this, he couldn't ask anything more. Feng Yunjun spoke up, we have really disturbed Brother Huan. We were just planning on finding a place to have dinner. Would you like to join us? Huan Mo responded, I have actually eaten already. If you honored guests don't mind, there are some guest rooms upstairs. Don't bother yourselves tonight and just stay here for the night ba. There will be a boat arriving tomorrow that can send you all back. Xian immediately let out a good and introduced himself as someone who was surnamed Xia with the given name Baikyu. Just like that, the group of them occupied the magpie's nest. Although it was a little discourteous, they directly started to have their dinner in Huan Mo's open room. Xiang Shu reported on the findings the two of them made, saying, how come there's a place like this on the island? It's rather strange. Chen Xing responded, there are many people who choose to isolate themselves in the world. However, I also think it's quite strange. Chen Xing had a nagging feeling that something was off, but he couldn't put his finger on it no matter how hard he tried. After the meeting, everyone ate the food and drinks that Feng Yunjun had brought. Nobody touched the tea provided by Huan Mo during that period of time. Gu Qing and Xie Dayun were wearing men's clothing but didn't seem to take part in an active conversation like the rest and had retired upstairs to rest first. Xiao Shan gave a stretch. Chen Xing then asked him, I'll take you upstairs to sleep. Xiao Shan responded, I want to sleep with you. All right. Chen Xing replied. He glanced upstairs and saw that Huan Mo had prepared 3 rooms for them and laid out mats on the floors. Xian and Feng Yunjun would share a room while Chen Xing, Xiang Shu, and Xiao Shan would share another. The 2 girls would take another room. Yet Xiang Shu never went upstairs. Instead, he remained seated outside the open room with one leg bent towards the side and the other hanging in the air as he faced the lake's tides. The decayed scabbard laid horizontally before his legs. After everyone dispersed, Huan Mo walked through the corridor and caught sight of Xiang Shu being lost in thought as he gazed at Lake Hong. Thus he smiled and asked, Are you not going to sleep? Xiang Shu replied with an irrelevant answer, saying in a light tone, Kang Langjiu, the master of this place must be a person of refined taste. Huan Mo replied, When I first heard of this place, I had also thought that the world is like a river, but life in itself is akin to a sudden storm. Sometimes it would be like the peak of a wave, uninhibited as the millions of mountains as high as thousands of ren. But other times it's like the valley of a wave, as overwhelming as a disaster that annihilates everything. The vast sea has risen and fallen for numerous years, but it was all nothing but the ocean's unwarranted fit. Xiang Shu politely said, It sounds like Sir Huan has experienced quite a lot in life. The most difficult part isn't even this. Huan Mo laughed, it's being submerged in the ocean and not being able to find your direction. You can only go along with the flow of the water in spite of oneself, forever unknowing of where it is you're heading, and your surroundings are nothing but darkness, it's too difficult. When the occasional calm of the wind and quiet of the waves come, there are still more dangers hidden under the surface of the sea. If you're just a little careless, you would be crushed to pieces. Even if you have died without an intact corpse and are swallowed by the sea, your remains would still be trapped within the waves without an escape, without an end in sight. Is it not like a person who has to suffer ridicule through the ages, generation after generation, even after their death? Xiang Shu's wide palms unconsciously stroked the scabbard as his deep eyes gazed at the darkness-shrouded Lake Hong. He spoke, "Sir, when you look at the lake, does it seem like nothing is there?" "Yes, it's pitch black," Huan Mo replied, "like a long and seemingly endless night." Xiang Shu raised his head slightly, and displayed in his eyes was the splendid galaxy reflected on the lake's surface. The Milky Way within the lake was like a heavenly bridge running from the heavens to the earth, and back from the earth to the heavens, forming a shining halo in the sky. But there would always be something in the sky that guides you towards the direction you need to go when you're at sea. Xiang Shu tilted back his head. "You believe that's a direction?" Huan Mo gave a laugh as he replied, "It's nothing more than a fixation. When the dark clouds blow over, you will be unable to see anything anymore." "A fixation?" Xiang Shu echoed. "You people mustn't have so many fixations." Huan Mo said, "Once you become too fixated, falling to the devil would be unavoidable." Xiang Shu refuted, "Although you say that one must not become fixated on something, I, however, think that if there are no fixations, and one takes nothing to heart and treats everything with composure, life would inevitably be incredibly dull." Huan Mo seemed a little surprised. He then nodded his head and said, "That's true. Brother Huan, would you like to drink some of my tea?" Xian suddenly appeared at an unknown time. Upstairs. After Xiao Shan snuggled into the blankets and fell asleep, Chen Xing was struck with a sudden desire to walk around for a little, so he quietly made his way down the stairs. He heard the sound of Xian chatting with Huan Mo over tea in the open room. Huan Mo was off to one side boiling the water, and was presently smiling, "Then I shall not be courteous." Chen Xing passed through the back of the open room, only to hear Xian continue, "I haven't heard of the people of the Huan family for a long time. Ever since Huan Wen fell into disgrace, the entire clan seemed to have disappeared from the world." "Which master did Brother Huan study under in Xiancheng?" Back in the day, Huan Wen was an unparalleled general of the Jin dynasty who had led the troops to conquer the north, a formidable adversary of the Murong, Fu, and Yao families. However, he had grown arrogant from his prowess on the battlefield and committed deeds that went against the legislation after he returned to court. He had then even requested to be sealed as a king as part of the 9 bestowments. Finally, he fell into Xian's clutches. Xian had never opposed him outright. After all the fuss, he only used one strategy: delay. In the end, he had successfully delayed until Huan Wen finally passed away, allowing everyone in the Jin court let loose a sigh of relief. It was also precisely because of Huan Wen's move that the Sima family became very sensitive towards officials who strove for power. They were afraid that if said officials gathered enough military power, they would go against the imperial family. Thus the 3 sides, the imperial court, the army, and the imperial family, existed in this slightly awkward, yet not, state of being. Huan Mo spoke a little of Xiancheng, before he brought up the long-time friendship between Huan Wen and Wang Meng once more. When Chen Xing heard that they were speaking of his Shixing, he eavesdropped on a few sentences and constantly felt that Xian seemed to only be making conventional remarks. Not long after, he heard Xian and Huan Mo once again begin to discuss the philosophies of the landscape. Chen Xing stopped listening and left the open room to walk outside. When he got to the depths of the garden, he found the stone tower that he had seen from outside of Kang Langjiu. Xiang Shu was standing at the base of the stone tower, and when he heard the sound of footsteps, he looked over at Chen Xing from where he was standing. "Chen Xing, I was just thinking about how I couldn't find you anywhere. So this is where you ran off to?" "Xiang Shu, you look everywhere the moment you can't find your protector anymore? How come you're just like Xiao Shan?" Chen Xing shouted, "I was afraid that you'd get lost after you ran off." Xiang Shu replied, "Just now I took a walk around Kang Langjiu and discovered that there's something off about the stone tower here. Yes, Chen Xing frowned and said, Karakoram also has one. It was a guard tower, remember? Except that one was locked. Xiang Shu said, why do I constantly feel that this stone tower is the same one at Karakoram? No, I remember that the one at Karakoram didn't have this keyhole. Chen Xing felt along the center of the stone tower, there was a hollowed-out black keyhole that appeared to be waiting for a suitable key. Towards this matter, he had a faint inkling, perhaps these remains of Kang Langjia were passed down from the Xiang family? Xiang Shu motioned for Chen Xing to take a step back. He leaned towards the dark keyhole and looked inside while tilting his head with a focused expression. The sight made Chen Xing suddenly have a small urge to laugh. You won't be able to see anything, Chen Xing said, otherwise it wouldn't be restricted. There's wind. Xiang Shu murmured and continued to keep his ear turned to listen as he stood by the door of the stone tower. Chen Xing. Chen Xing also copied Xiang Shu and turned his ear to listen. The two of them were face to face as they pressed their ears against the stone door together. His and Xiang Shu's fine and smooth lips were less than an inch apart. The air of their breaths were pretty much mixed together, they were almost kissing. Chen Xing stiffly moved away from the stone door and Xiang Shu let out a cough. He suddenly thought of something and raised his sword towards the stone door. The measurements are just right? Chen Xing asked. Xiang Shu slowly inserted the Akala blade into the keyhole, rendering Chen Xing dumbstruck. I already tried once before. Xiang Shu said to Chen Xing, nothing happened. Chen Xing, no, no, no. Chen Xing's breathing almost stopped. He raised his hands and placed them on Xiang Shu's that were holding the sword. He said, just this once, Xiang Shu, listen to what I say. Chen Xing summoned the heart lamp, and the light flowed out in an instant, filling their bodies to the brim, and no sooner said than done, the garden was lit up like it was daytime. Wait! Chen Xing suddenly said just as he was bringing the heart lamp to full illumination. Xiang Shu. Chen Xing, should we call them to come out? Xiang Shu, no, let's first open it then call them over. Chen Xing took a deep breath and said, after we open it, I may not necessarily be able to restore it. Xiang Shu, just leave everything to me. Open it. Chen Xing promptly poured in the heart lamp and, in a moment, the two of them shone with a brilliant light. The mana of the heart lamp was poured into the stone tower through the sword of wisdom, causing the door of the stone tower burst into a strong light like golden-colored mana. With a buzz that sounded through the entire courtyard, the whole ground lit up. In the hall, the writings of the general of the right Wong. When they spoke up to this point, Huan Mo's words suddenly stopped, and a strange smile appeared on his face. Xian watched Huan Mo and crinkled his eyes, a strange smile also appearing on his face. What are you smiling for? Huan Mo suddenly detected a faint sense of danger. What are you smiling for? Xian asked back. Huan Mo let out a cold laugh, and he pressed a hand lightly down on the table. In that instant, the four walls surrounding Kang Langjia broke apart like paper, drifting far away, and the wooden rafters collapsed soundlessly. The roof had disappeared, revealing the starry sky overhead. Xian's brows twitched as he watched Huan Mo with an inexplicable expression. Huan Mo, Xianqi, I really must thank you all for helping me unlock the Suling Tower and retrieve, but as he spoke, his tone suddenly changed, and his expression instantly froze. Xian said in a low voice, Sir Huan, don't celebrate too early. Didn't you find that the tea you just drank wasn't quite right in its taste? Huan Mo. In the courtyard, Xiang Shu and Chen Xing grabbed the hilt of the Akala blade together, and Chen Xing shouted, open. With a light sound, each layer of the stone tower slowly disintegrated, and the stones that made up the walls flew apart, causing a strong wind to gust out. Xiang Shu immediately backed up and stuck an arm out in front of Chen Xing as he used his back to protect him. Chen Xing's eyes opened wide. From the side of Xiang Shu's shoulder, he saw a glowing pearl diffusing a golden light from within the stone tower. The pearl let out a strong light that swept across the land, and the entirety of Kanglangjia broke apart as the illusion dissipated, revealing a desolate island and forest. High up in the ruins, Xiao Shan was sleeping in the air and fell down in a moment of carelessness. In mid-air, he let out a loud shout before he turned, flipped, and landed on the ground with one hand as support. Feng Qianjun was dangling from a tree. He exclaimed in shock, "What thing is shining like this?" "Qing-er! Qing-er!" From afar came the sound of Gu Qing shouting loudly. Xie Dayun cried, "Careful!" The two of them also fell down from a tree, and Feng Qianjun jolted, before he shouted, "Wait for me!" Huanmo's eyes glazed over. He pressed one hand against his forehead as his legs went weak, and he fell to the floor. The illusion had vanished and Xian faced the collapsed Huan Mo, suddenly feeling a little bewildered. He didn't know what to do next, so he could only shout, "Little Shidi! I seem to have captured a Yao. Come here and take a look." At this time, a gust of black qi dissipated from Huan Mo's body, and the black qi then slowly formed into a body. "Xianqi, I actually managed to fall into your clutches this once." From within the black qi came a hoarse voice. "You can die contentedly now. What evil are you?" Xian was completely unafraid as he pulled out his sword and bellowed, "This is your original form." The black qi let out maniacal laughter. It said with an impudent voice, "Weren't you all searching for me all this time? Don't you recognize who I am? Shi Hai." In this way, Xian had completed his first attempt at catching Yao in his career as an exorcist, and in addition, he had even managed to take down the biggest name in their enemy's camp. This was enough to go down in history. But just in that short instant Xian made a brilliant decision, back away and run. "Chen Xing!" Xian shouted, "Protector! Shi Hai has come!" The mass of black qi let out a hoarse, wild roar before pouncing towards Xian in an instant with a shua. The stone tower opened, and the pearl within it cast light out for thousands of zhang. Just as Chen Xing was about to take it, a shadow in the darkness stabbed out with a sword right after. Without a sound or a breath, it headed directly for the back of Chen Xing's neck. But Xiang Shu was even faster than the black shadow. He shot forward, grabbed at the air, and took a hold of the blade of the sword. In that instant, fresh blood splattered everywhere as Xiang Shu actually managed to snap the blade with his bare hands. The long sword let out a light sound as it was snapped by Xiang Shu's iron-like strength into two halves. The instant Chen Xing turned back, he came directly face to face with his ambusher's face. "Sima Wei!" Sima Wei wasn't wearing a helmet, and with a flick of his broken sword, he once again went for Chen Xing's neck. But Xiang Shu pressed a hand on Chen Xing's shoulder and borrowed it to propel himself upwards. In midair, he spread his legs apart as he turned and locked his ankles around Sima Wei's neck. The two of them spun together, sending him flipping into the ground. "Get the magical artifact!" Xiang Shu shouted. With this push of Xiang Shu's, Chen Xing rushed up the platform in 2 steps before he leapt upwards and grabbed the pearl into his hand. The mana holding up the stone tower disappeared, and the stones came crashing down. Xiang Shu twisted Sima Wei to the ground before turning away again to jump up to catch the Akala blade. Sima Wei slowly stood up and straightened out his twisted neck before he shot towards Xiang Shu with his bare hands. "Someone like you!" Xiang Shu held his sword in his hand, and with an easy turn, Sima Wei had leapt into empty air. "Wong can take care of 8 of them," Xiang Shu said coldly and backhandedly swung his sword. With a muffled sound, Sima Wei's chest plate was caved in by the force of that blow and was sent flying outwards. His back slammed into a large tree and he fell heavily into the rubble. "Last time the 3 of you came at me together," Xiang Shu lifted his sword and took another step over. Chen Xing doggedly got up and stared fixedly at Xiang Shu. Sima Wei had just crawled up from the ground, subconsciously lifting up a hand to catch Xiang Shu's blow, and immediately suffered a second swing of Xiang Shu's sword. "Do you still not understand the consequences? You still haven't given up?" You still wanted to ambush us? Xiang Shu said coldly, before lifting up Sima Wei with a flick of his sword. With a sweep of his body and 3 consecutive swings of his sword, and simultaneously 3 loud rings in a row, Sima Wei was once again sent flying 5 zhang away. Stop fighting! Chen Xing immediately shouted, show some mercy. It's enough now. Normally I wouldn't want to fight with you guys. Xiang Shu didn't wait for Sima Wei to land before he lightly jumped up and flew up into midair. Sima Wei spun around in the air and swung his broken sword, but his arm was snapped in Xiang Shu's grip as if it were a strip of bamboo. The rage in Xiang Shu's chest finally exploded out, and he furiously roared, lowlife! Scram! With that move, Sima Wei narrowly escaped being split in 2, and his body bent as he flew into Lake Hong like a kite with a broken string. The instant he made impact with the water, he let out a broken roar. Xiang Shu put his sword away. Chen Xing had already forgotten about the Dinghai pearl, and his chest was filled with a sense of idolization that he could not vocalize. Just then, he saw a person with their robes askew, appearing as if he had ridden the wind to embrace the moon. He was wildly running towards him in a panic as he shouted, little Shidi! Shisheng just caught a Shihai! That cloud of black chi morphed into a human silhouette, and its outline gradually grew clearer. Chen Xing clutched the pearl in his hand, and Xiang Shu lifted up his sword, protecting Chen Xing behind him. The Dinghai pearl it has taken me a full 300 years to find. 300 years. The person concealed within the mass of black chi said slowly. Xian slowly backed away to Chen Xing's side, while Feng Qianjun and Xiao Shan, who had just rescued Gu Qing and Xie Dayun, rushed out. All of them pulled out their weapons, facing the black shadow. Shihai! Chen Xing cried in shock. That cloud of the dark chi was precisely the human figure that he had seen by the Kuiji earth vein. It was Shihai. More than once, Chen Xing had thought about the day that he would come face to face with Shihai, but he never would have expected that it would be at this time, and in this place. End chapter.